Florio was elected the 49th governor of New Jersey on November 7, 1989. Among Governor Florio's achievements over the past 4 years are: he has signed legislation to reform welfare, create the Economic Recovery Fund. Un aplauso muy fuerte para nuestro gobernador, Florio.
I am not only pleased to have been given the invitation to be able to be here, but I'm especially excited to learn about Daniel's elevation. Not only has he been a great help here in New Jersey in creating a good economic climate, but now as the next Vice President of the National Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we are able to share someone that we are proud of with the rest of the nation to try to help develop jobs and opportunity for all the people of the nation in the way that we've tried to do here in New Jersey. This conference has a special meaning to me. It proves that the American dream is still alive and well and prospering in this country. But at the same time, it also reminds us that there's much that needs to be done to ensure that the dream extends out to all of our people. For me, the dream is just not an idea, it's part of my life. The introduction alluded a bit to that. I am a high school dropout son of a shipyard worker and a homemaker that never went to college or to high school even. And I stand here before you today as the governor of the state of New Jersey. Like millions of Americans, my grandfather was an immigrant. He came from the old country, and when he came here, he had no money, didn't speak English at all, but he worked very hard, and he had some values, and he saved up enough money to go into business. His business entailed buying a horse and a wagon. And he delivered ice in the summertime, and he delivered coal in the wintertime. Like you all, he was an entrepreneur. He was someone that understood that there is opportunity if you're willing to work for it. He instilled in me and in my family some basic values that I think live with us today. The thought that if you work hard, you ought to be able to get ahead. The idea that work is just not a job. It's a way in which we define ourselves. It's a way in which we try to help our families to advance even beyond where we are. My father used to talk to me a lot about the idea of personal responsibility. Don't make excuses. Go do things and take care of the problems, whatever. The responsibility that we all have for ourselves and for our children, if we happen to be parents. And I have from my father and my grandfather a sense of appreciation of the freedom and the opportunity that we have that is the essence of this nation that we celebrate on a regular basis. In some respects, that's why I entered public service over 25 years ago. Decided to make a career out of government service because I thought there was the opportunity that I could play some role in hoping to expand the horizons of everyone. My mother used to say to me, she'd call me James, she'd say, James, whatever it is you're going to be, whether it be a teacher or a policeman or a truck driver, be the best that you can be. Be the best policeman, the best teacher, the best truck driver. One of her favorite words was excel. To go out and to excel. To use whatever you have, your energy, your intellect, the drive that you have, and to make sure that you be the best that you can be. My goal over these last 25 years in public service has been to try to provide the opportunity for the American dream to flow out to everyone. As you all know, I became the governor some 4 years ago in very, very difficult, if not challenging times. The government in Washington at that time, the government in Trenton at that time, had done a terrible job of preparing for the future. We were spending entirely too much on things we didn't need, and we weren't investing and building a foundation for the things that we did need. And of course, that's exactly when the storm of this national recession that we have been through in these last 3 years hit, and hit hard. But instead of continuing to just bemoan the fact, I mean, some folks wanted to walk away. What we did was to roll up our sleeves. We said we were going to be concerned about future generations. We said that we were going to develop the plan, and the plan was very simple. First and foremost, what we did was to do the responsible things necessary to put our economic house in order. It is not pleasant picking up the tab for somebody else's binge, but it's necessary when the bills have been run up and they haven't been taken care of. We closed a $3 billion hole in the state budget. Not easy, certainly not popular. There weren't a lot of people strewing rose petals in my path in 1990. It was something that really had to be done. We took 1,000 state cars off the road, took rail passes from governmental officials, audited every nook and cranny in government to weed out and to find out what it is we had to do to make government, as you try to make your businesses, more cost effective. We had to make tough decisions. At the end of this year, there will be 10,000 fewer state employees on the state payroll than there were 3.5 years ago when I came into office. That probably has never been done before in the history of this state. But as a result of the 80s and the growth that occurred without any vision to provide to the taxpayers of this state fairness and equity, we were required to be able to make some of those cost-benefit decisions. As I say, were they easy? Of course not. Were they necessary? Absolutely. What I was elected to do was to make the tough decisions so as to be able to advance people's lives. The tough decisions that you make each and every day of your life in the business world. I think it's about time that folks start thinking about not just the next quarter or the next election, but start thinking about the next generation. And that's what we've tried to do in these last 4 years. The second part of the plan was to invest aggressively in our economy. When the credit crunch slammed the bank doors shut for many businesses, particularly small businesses, particularly minority businesses, perhaps businesses sitting in this room, we transformed the state economic development that was saying, thanks but sorry, we're not available. We've been out there providing money to small companies to allow them to expand. We lifted the cap on our Transportation Trust Fund to increase our investment in transportation infrastructure. Billions of dollars and jobs being created as we tried to build again for the future. Now, let me just give you an example. Everywhere I go, I run into people saying, oh, Governor Florio, the Jersey Shore is wonderful this year. The water is as clean as it's ever been. And it's a nice feeling. But if the truth be told, the reason why the Jersey Shore is as clean and as good and as prosperous as it is this year, business is doing very well. Jobs are being generated. Tourism is an $18 billion industry. The reason why all of those good things happened was that we invested millions and millions of dollars in upgrading sewage treatment plants. Old plants that were there were not working and they were polluting the water. We have invested and upgraded those plants to the point that now, and perhaps some in this audience can relate to this, now people have told me the water looks like the Caribbean. Well, it's nice. It's a nice thing to be able to observe. You know, we just, again, as part of our policy to try to create jobs, I just signed into law a package of bills that are designed to provide incentives for things like investment tax credits for small business people, reduce taxes on subchapter S corporations, which many small business people use, incentives that will stimulate investment and create economic growth all over the state of New Jersey. And we've also begun to open up the emerging markets here in this nation and around the world. Our Division of International Trade is very active, and we are working very hard to make sure that we are going to be part of the global trade arena that we are in and will continue to be in the future. And one particular initiative, and I know Zulima Farber is someone who I've consulted with on this in the past, we're beginning to prepare for the reemergence of an old market, Cuba. I believe that Cuba is going to be liberated in the not too distant future. And when it happens, we in New Jersey will be ready. We've created a task force with some business people, some of whom are in this room, to help us prepare a specific, concrete strategy for opening up new relationships with old friends so that the private sector will be able to be ready. And we had Commissioner McConnell and Zulima Farber, our public advocate, is working very hard to make sure that we will be there when free enterprise is restored to Cuba. It's going to help us to build linkages and a foundation that will ensure that democracy will prevail and democracy will stay firm. Because we all know that a democracy requires a healthy economy in order to grow and to prosper and take root. We've also, as was stated in the introduction, reinstituted the minority set-aside programs that have been thrown out by federal Supreme Court cases to give everyone a fair shot at governmental contracts. The Set-Aside Commission confirmed what we all knew, that exclusion is not a thing of the distant past. That what we have to do is to make sure we are vigilant and to do better to bring everyone in to the vision that we have of business growth and business prosperity. We're beginning to see all of these investments start to pick up. The economy is starting to come back. There's more to do. I've said that as long as there's one person in New Jersey who wants a job, who hasn't got a job, my job is not done. We are moving forward, and we're trying again to create manufacturing jobs, to give one example. And I'm very pleased that our job training program has worked in an excellent fashion to be able to keep dozens and dozens of manufacturing jobs and plants available and growing. If you go and talk to the workers and the management at GE in Camden, or General Motors in Linden, or Ford in Edison, they will tell you, but for our Workplace Development Partnership Act, our job training program, those places would have closed. And that's a source of great inspiration to everyone. And we're also attracting national and international corporations to come here to New Jersey. Companies like Johnson Controls, which recently brought 150 jobs from New York to New Jersey. Last year, when Honda had to choose a point of exit to ship its cars around the world, we made the case and were pleased that Honda chose Port Elizabeth as the place where they would be there working with jobs, particularly stevedoring jobs, export-related jobs. We have seen for 3 years in a row now, the number of companies coming into our state has increased dramatically. Employment is on the rise in our state. Productivity is up. Hiring is at a 3-year high. But having said all of those things, I know that there are still people who are struggling. I know that there are families that still want to be able to get to the next rung of the ladder of opportunity. We've made progress, but there's a lot of progress yet to be achieved. First and foremost, we've got to attack the regulatory monster that grew out of control in the 1980s. No more runny egg rules. We've got to have some sense of balance when we talk about appropriate regulations to ensure a good environment, to ensure a safe workplace. But we've got to make sure that we have that proportionality that is necessary. Equally, if not more important, as I said, the economy of the future is going to be a high-wage, high-value, high-tech economy. I rejected, and let me just be partisan on one note, I rejected the legislature's law that they sent to me to roll back the minimum wage. Strange. Strange as it may sound, that was their first priority. And my opponent supports that position. The thought that in this day and age, you would go to somebody who works 40 hours a week for a whole year, makes $8,400 and tell them that's too much. That's beyond my capability of understanding. I veto that law, and the legislature wasn't able to override my veto. I do not want our New Jersey economy trying to compete with third world nations. I want us to be at the high end. And I guess what that does is bring me to the idea that education is the most important thing that we can provide to all of our children. And I want to emphasize, all of our children are entitled to a quality education. They need it to be productive citizens. Education is just another word for opportunity, as far as I'm concerned. I'm very proud of the fact that in New Jersey, we provide more tuition assistance to our college students than any other state in the Union. That's an investment that's going to yield dividends far into the next century. That's an investment that we've made. But there's one other issue that I think I would like to just touch upon, because it speaks about the need for making sure that all of us go forward together in the future. That all of us understand that wherever New Jersey is going in the future, we're all going there together. There has to be sensitivity to the fact that the dynamic of our diversity is a strength. It is not a weakness, it is a strength. What we have to do is to be opening doors of opportunity and moving to the high ground of hope and opportunity. And that's why this case involving Judge Marianne Espinosa Murphy is so important. That case represents a lot of values, not the least of which is the fact that we want, in our court system, in our governmental system, full diversity and access for all of our people. Judge Murphy happens to be a wonderful judge, an excellent judge who has carved out a reputation, especially in the area of working to protect families, to protect children, to insist that parents take the responsibility for the support of their children. All of those things she has carved out a reputation that is excellent on. She happens, as I suspect this audience knows, happens to be a Hispanic woman who brings a very badly needed element of diversity to the judicial branch. To have her artificially and arrogantly and just totally without reason dumped from this position that she serves in so admirably is to send out all of the wrong messages to the people who look to our state for leadership. As you all know, the backroom device of something called senatorial courtesy which really should be called senatorial discourtesy, is being used to blackball Judge Murphy. You all, I suspect, fully understand the arbitrary, anti-democratic characteristics of this terrible, terrible process. The single senator who has said that he doesn't want her on the bench has said that she has a bad judicial temperament. Well, we understand code words. We understand that if you really have something that is disqualifying, you should be the first person in the world to say, let's have a public hearing so I can share with everyone all of my concerns. That's not what's happening. This is all about backroom, behind the scenes, wheeling and dealing, and practices which are a shame and bring shame to all the members of the Senate of the state of New Jersey. I'm very pleased to tell you that I have today authorized a suit that is being filed today to challenge this whole process and say the process is a catastrophe, and that the sooner the Supreme Court of New Jersey rules senatorial courtesy illegal, the better we will all be. On this issue, my opponent, as in so many issues, is playing weather vane politics. At one point early on, she said it was of no concern to her. It was a matter of the Senate's business. Then, as people started to change their thoughts about things, she has evolved to the point where I think, as of today, she's opposed to the concept, that she's opposed to the practice. Well, all I'm suggesting to you is that this is not an issue that you can vacillate on. This is not an issue that you should be checking in with someone on a day-by-day basis to see their evolution about the concept of fairness. Fairness is not something that's negotiable. Due process is not something that is okay yesterday but not tomorrow. There are certain basic characteristics that we want in our leaders, and I think folks ought to be upfront about what they really do feel about these fundamental characteristics. Because we're choosing someone. In the next couple of months, we will choose someone who will lead us right up to the next century. And we ought to have some sense about fundamental values. Let me just conclude by saying that I do believe that we are on a right road. We are heading in the right direction. I'm pleased whenever the unemployment numbers come out because it's telling us that we are headed in the right direction. We're trying to, and we have put our economic house in order. It is interesting for me to pick up the newspapers every day and to see what is happening in other states where they have not gotten around to doing the tough things that we did early on. Michigan is about to have its public school system closed. California is a basket case. We did tough things, and they weren't popular, and in some instances, you don't like doing some of those things. But we all learned in our personal lives, in our family lives, in our business lives, that running away from problems doesn't make the problems go away. Running away from problems, many instances, allows the problems to fester and to grow and to become unmanageable. I am very pleased that just about 4 weeks ago, we made some announcements about a program that put people to work. As a matter of fact, this program is a $250 million school rehabilitation and construction program. It put 11,000 people to work here in this summer while we're doing these repairs, and what was really nice was the bond issue that financed this program got a AAA bond rating. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the highest rating that you can get. That's the endorsement of the people on Wall Street who don't care about politics, they don't care about anything else except bottom lines. And if they say you're doing the responsible thing, you can take it to the bank. So it's nice to be able to move in a positive direction. And I would just say to all of you that, again, looking in the audience, people that I've worked with, people that I've become friends with, people who have provided me with good advice, But these have been an interesting 4 years, perhaps to understate it. I could take off my jacket and show you the scars that I have on my back if I wanted to. But I've learned a lot. It's been a very, very good, if not tough, education. I've learned to talk a little bit less and maybe to listen a little bit more, to try to bring people together, to try to share. Over 2 years ago, as many of you know because you've been there, I started real town meetings. I've started programs where I'd have a capital for a day and everyone could come out. We'd have a give and take. It wasn't always as neat as it could be. Sometimes it got a little rowdy. But democracy is not necessarily a neat process. It just happens to be the best process. And it's provided me, these last couple of years have provided me with an opportunity to talk to New Jerseyans. And it has confirmed what it is I guess I really knew all along, that people are fair, people are strong, and they understand that we're all in this together. We all have our moments, but on balance, the vast majority of our people want to do the right thing for themselves and for their family. All they want is the opportunity. It's a very important word, opportunity. And if I use it again and again and again, it's because it's a metaphor for my own life. I've been able to see things over my life and to see where, well, if I had gone this way, if I hadn't gone back to high school, if I hadn't gone back and gotten my GED diploma, where would I be? My goal not only in the next 4 years, but in the rest of my life, is to always make sure that opportunity is available for all of the people who come after us. I'm a grandfather now. I have 2 little grandchildren, Chelsea and Matthew. I want them to be all that they can be. A couple of you heard me brag a little bit about the fact that I gave the commencement address about a month ago at the graduation ceremonies of my daughter, who graduated from medical school, Dr. Florio, of whom I'm extremely proud. That's America. That's progress. The grandson of an immigrant and the father of a doctor. That's why we all work. And I just want to express to all of you that I'm convinced the American dream is still alive. We have to work to make it more available to everyone, but that's not beyond our capability. If it means we have to go do some tough things from time to time, we do them. If it means that from time to time folks get a little bit unhappy because there's a need to make these tough decisions, the alternative is to sit around and not do anything. That's not what we're about. That's not how you have all advanced your lives. What we are working to do is to make sure that New Jersey stays as a state of opportunity. With your help, we'll do that. Thank you very much.